Welcome to Melbourne.
Thank you.
Is it your first time to Australia?
This is my third time to Australia, actually, but my first time to Melbourne.
Experiences in the past and so far of this trip? What is Australia? How has Australia treated you?
Australia has always treated me well. My first trip to Australia was to Sydney back in the 90s, I think, for a Supernova Con. Is that possible? And my memories were terrific. I actually made friends there that I remain friends with to this day, thanks to the magic of Facebook.
Fantastic.
So, and then I came back and did another show in Brisbane, Sydney, and a little trip to New Zealand, and now I'm back in Melbourne. I'd like to say I think I've done a lot of Australia, as a matter of fact.
You certainly have. So what is an average day at these sort of conventions for you?
I like to think that I'm a workhorse at these conventions, but that just might be self-aggrandizement. An average day is working from about 10 to 6. I end up doing about 30 or 40 drawings for people, meeting a lot of wonderful fans, some new ones, hopefully, the occasional genre celebrity who also happens to be at the show, interviews, of course, and then hopefully a lunch break or two somewhere in between there.
So you're someone who writes and draws, which isn't always the case for artists in the comic world.
I like to say that I'm an artist who has written occasionally.
Okay.
I'm not necessarily sure I think of myself as a writer.
Mm-hmm.
As I've explained elsewhere, I tend to write for myself when other authors are not writing me anything I want to draw. Like if there's a very specific story or a thing that I want to draw, no one's writing me something, then I will write. But I'm a very sensitive writer, and I've had too much changed editorially, and I just don't really have the heart for that. So I haven't really sought to do it in a very long time.
Going back to the beginning, when we're all kids, there's a superhero we all connect with.
Of course.
Who was yours?
Mine was Wonder Woman, the Linda Carter TV show Wonder Woman, followed very closely by the Bionic Woman. Those two characters and those two women had such a profound impact on my life. It's kind of hard to actually explain or articulate. A matter of the right actor, right character, right moment in time.
I'd love to see, because I know they were trying to do a Wonder Woman TV series recently.
It was horrible.
You actually saw it? I haven't
I've
seen
seen it twice. And the sad thing is, it's not just bad Wonder Woman, it's bad TV.
Mm.
It's so shocking in, I think it was like $14 million for the single pilot episode, and nobody does anything that makes any sort of sense on any sort of human level. Even if it wasn't a Wonder Woman show, it was so nonsensical, it's hard to imagine.
Wow.
Plus she's mean. She's kind of a bully in this show, which is it's unfortunate.
So for the best, we never saw the light of day.
I think so. Again, I just think it would have been bad TV.
So when you got to do Wonder Woman, I mean, what did that mean to you that you were actually, trying for those comics?
My time on Wonder Woman was both the most miraculous blessing and a bit of a curse. It's a little bit of be careful what you wish for. In my case, it was at 30 years old, I got to live my dream, and that all I ever wanted to do was write and draw Wonder Woman. It also came with a number of editorial caveats and crossovers and the events of 9/11, all these things which I was not expecting. I just thought, I would present my stories, I would write and tell them the way I expected. And from day one, that was never the case. Every issue, except for maybe a small handful, there was some massive kind of editorial interference or change that I just was not expecting, and probably too young and ill-prepared to actually deal with in any sort of mature way. So I'm happy to have a hand in Wonder Woman's legacy. The fans of my run are real fans. I think they get at least some part of what I was trying to do. I think they understand that other parts were messed up, to put it politely. I would love one more shot at that character someday, if not a run, like just a single story. But yeah, I got to live the dream, and there are very few people who can truly say that.
Does that, I mean, do those sort of experiences, though, has that prepared you for everything you've done since? Because I imagine those sorts of issues have come up with other projects you've worked on.
Believe it or not, it took me years after that to sort of settle into the notion that this is the way things are done. There was always this feeling that I could manage these things, but I tend to be fairly emotional and particularly connected to these characters. Partly because when I was young, those stories meant so much to me and provided me with such motivation and inspiration that I take it very seriously. And so I know what those characters and those stories did for me as a child and did for me as a young man, and I want my stories to do the same. And when editorial interference or marketing caveats or whatever come in and shape the material in a way where I think this isn't going to inspire anyone. This might make a lot of money this summer, but it's not going to matter at the end of the day. It makes me sad, and it took me a long time, probably another 10 years after Wonder Woman, to figure out, well, this is the business, and this is what the business has become. So now I'm much better at divorcing myself from it all. I think there's something a little sad about that because it lessens the passion a bit, but I also see it in much more practical terms.